This is episode 1 of my clock guide to get from beginner to expert, an introduction to clock, notation, and hardware. Today, we'll start with an introduction to the puzzle, then move on to notation, scrambling, my hardware recommendations, and finally a brief understanding of the differences between clock and other events. 1. Introduction to clock. So, this is a clock. There are 18 faces, 9 on each side, and 4 dials to move the clocks. The goal of the puzzle is to get all the hands facing 12, indicated by this red marker here, and this has to be done on both sides. In order to do this, you need to use these 4 pins to change which clocks these dials actually move. This is a bit complicated to explain, so I would recommend you to get a clock to try it yourself. However, I'll do my best. At any given time, there are basically 2 systems, up pins and down pins. Each system is connected to each other. For instance, you can move this system and this system, however you can't move 2 of the same systems. For instance, there's 2 up pins here, you can't move these 2, they're connected. Remember that the pin direction is reversed on the opposite side, so these up pins are actually down pins on this side, and these down pins are actually up pins on this side. If you have all the pins down, then it will move all 4 corners. However, if there's a pin up and you turn any corresponding pin, then it will move the clocks around that up pin. For example, we have our top right pin up here, and we move the top right dial, which is a corresponding dial. All the 4 clocks that are around this up pin will move. Let's say we add a second pin, like this top left one. Now we can control using any of these 2 dials, which are connected, to move all 6 clocks around the 2 up pins. If we have 3 pins, the same rule applies. So let's put this bottom left pin up. So if we turn any of these dials, we can do the bottom one, the top left, or the top right. It'll move all the clocks around the up pins, with this one being the only one not moved. And remember, for down pins, it only affects any corner clocks that also have down pins. For example, this bottom right pin being down, if we move this bottom dial, the only thing that it changes is this corner. This also means that if we flip the clock and we're moving this dial here, this is the only pin that's up because they're reversed, and then therefore all these 4 pins will move, even though only this one's moving on the other side. So now I've scrambled this clock up, and one thing you might notice is that all the corners are connected. They're actually physically connected. For instance, this clock is matched with this clock. They're both facing 2 to 12. And if I move this clock like that, so will this clock on the back change as well. They are connected. However, the edge clocks, as you can see, they're not connected. And that really forms the basics of clock mechanics. I just wanted to cover a few things regarding the WCA rules, as there are a few nuances of the event I need to explain. Firstly, there are no +2 penalties. Even if your clock finishes like this, where it is 1 tick off, it's still a DNF. Secondly, recently, a few years ago, there were changes in the rules that allow you to change the pins during inspection. So before starting the solve, you can choose the pins that you want up, place it on the ground standing, and start the timer. 2. Notation. Notation is rarely used in clock, and I will later explain why in this video. However, you will need to understand it when scrambling. Basically, every move comes in a pair. The letter in the front dictates the pins that need to be up when doing the turn. UR means upper right, DR means lower right, DL means lower left, and UL means upper left. If you see only one letter, it means that 2 pins are up, with the side of the letter associated. U means the up 2 pins, R means the right 2 pins, D means the down 2 pins, and L means the left 2 pins. Remember, this specifically means the pins that are up when doing the moves. For instance, if it's UR to DR, you would put down the UR pin and put up the DR pin. If there is 1 up pin, then you will do the move on that up pin. If there are 2, you can choose which up pin you do it on because they're connected. If there are 2 up pins, one on the upper side and one on the lower side, I'd recommend doing it on the upper one because D moves are really hard to do. Finally, if it is a plus, it means clockwise, so going this way. And if it's a negative, it means anti-clockwise, meaning going this way. For example, UR3+ would put the UR pin up, so we'll move this upper right dial 3 ticks in the clockwise direction because it's a plus. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, and some notation for flips. A Y2 flip is the one you're going to be doing for scrambling, and that means a horizontal flip like this. So this is a Y2 flip. And an X2 flip means a vertical flip like this. This is all the main notation you will need to know for scrambling. However, some tutorials online use a special notation referring to different clocks. You don't need to learn this, but if you're curious, capital letters are from the front face, lowercase letters are from the back face. And this is dependent on the face you start with. C is for center, U is for up, R is for right, D is for down, and L is for left. And we also have our corners, UR, DR, DL, and UL. So for instance, this clock here will be capital L, and then if we do a flip, this clock here will be lowercase l. This notation is often used when you have to match one clock to another clock. For instance, if it says R to D, that means you match the R clock to the D clock. So in this case, we can do this, and we're going to match this one so that it's pointing in the same direction as this clock over here. Again, this notation is quite intuitive, and you're not going to really need to use it. It's just the scrambling notation that's important. 3. Scrambling. The format of the scramble is identical every single time in terms of the order of pins that are up. It is just the direction and magnitude of the turning that changes. Every scramble will look identical like this, starting with 1 pin up, doing that 4 times, then 2 pins up, doing that 4 times, all pins up, a Y2 flip, specifically Y2 not X2, and then 2 pins up, again, do that 4 times, all of them up, do a move, and then the scramble will be done. Let's do an example scramble. Alright, so we're going to start with UR4 minus. So we're going to put the UR pin up, which is the upper right, and we're going to do 4 moves in the counterclockwise direction because it's a 4 minus. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, we're going to put this pin down now because the next one is DR5 minus. So we're going to put the DR pin up, which is the bottom right, and we're going to do 5 moves in the counterclockwise direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember, clockwise is this way, anti-clockwise is this way. Next is DL4 plus. So we're going to put the DR pin down and the DL pin up, and then we're going to do 4 moves in the clockwise direction. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Put the pin down. Next is UL4 minus. So we're going to put the UL pin up, 4 moves in the anti-clockwise direction. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we've done all our single pins, and now we're going to go on to our double pins. So the next one is U5 plus. So we're going to put our 2 U pins up and 5 moves in the clockwise direction. So we can use either of these 2 dials. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. The next one is R0 plus. So we're going to put our R pins up, which are these 2. So we can put this one down and this one up. However, it's 0 turns, which means we don't have to do anything. And we can move on to D2 minus. So we're going to put this pin down and this pin up. So now we have our 2 D pins. And it's 2 minus. So we're going to put 2 moves in the anti-clockwise direction. Finishing with an L0 plus. So we have our L pins, no moves, nothing to do. All means all pins up. So we're going to put all of them up and do 4 moves in the anti-clockwise direction. We can choose any pin. I like the top right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to Y2 flip like this. And now we're going to do the 2 pins again. U5 minus, the U pins up, 5 in the negative direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then R3 minus, so we got our right pins, 3 in the counterclockwise direction. 1, 2, 3. D6 plus, and then 6 moves. Because there are 12 moves in total, 6 does not matter whether you go clockwise or anti-clockwise. We're just going to go 6 moves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then L5 minus. So we're going to put our L pins up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then all the pins up. And we're going to do 4 moves in the clockwise direction. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there we go. That is our scrambled clock. 4. Hardware. Now, if I made this video 3 months ago, there would be only one possible option for clock, and that is the Qi clock, like these ones, which have many color variations. This clock was and is still in contention to be the best clock due to technological innovations of its time. It turns super well, however, to get the most out of it, you do have to set it up with some lubricant or other modifications such as the tape mod. I'll be making a complete setup tutorial for the Qi clock in the next video of the series. However, recently, the Shangshao clock has been added to the market as a competitor to the Qi clock. It's quite a bit cheaper, and many claim it to be actually better than the Qi version. However, I don't have it yet, so I can't really comment. From what I've seen online, it feels slightly better out of the box. However, when both are set up properly, there is not much difference. I believe that if you want to get serious at clock, you will end up lubricating a puzzle and setting it up, so it doesn't really matter. And my advice is to go for whichever looks more aesthetically pleasing or more practical looking. For example, I think the Shangshao clock looks quite bad, and the Qi one looks a lot more elegant. However, this is just personal opinion. Qi also has many color variations like this blue clock, which is nice, but you may go for Xingqiao for the better price before committing to an expensive one. Again, it's really your choice. 5. Clock versus other events. Clock solving is more or less quite simple and involves the same process no matter what level. Although there are many applications or techniques you can use to improve, at a very basic level, it is just matching one clock to another, and doing that many times until the clock is solved. The order that you match the clocks and the different techniques you use is called a method, and there are literally so many different methods out there, some variations of each other and others completely different. Yet, they all branch out of the same simple idea of matching clocks. Unlike other events, there are no algorithms and there is also no intuition. It is just memorizing and gaining muscle memory for the method you use, and then repeating it over and over again to get faster and more consistent. At the very basic level is the beginner's method, which is the first method taught to all clock solvers. However, we can add different tricks as we go on. I don't want to spend too long on this, but some tricks involve doing simultaneous moves at the same time, since up pin and down pin systems are separate. And you can also learn to memorize the positions of the clocks to prevent flipping the clock entirely. And that's really it for this video, and in the next episode of this series, I'll explain how to set up, loop, and tape mod your Qi clock to perfection. Thank you guys for watching, and please consider subscribing. See ya.